Hello and welcome to episode 90 on the Everyday Joy podcast. I'm your host, Joy Ravella. I received the most wonderful email from Patricia, who's also given us a 5-star review. So thank you so much, Patricia. This is what she sent through. She said, I listen while cleaning or doing makeup as I'm going to work. I'm a mother of 2 and this has helped me become a better mother to my kids and also a better wife to my husband. Now, I've got to be honest with you, Patricia, I had to read that through about 10 times before I could say it without tearing up. I am honestly just so moved by the fact that this podcast and the way God is using it is just changing so many people's lives and is impacting people in such a positive way. I feel so privileged to be a part of it. And if you also want to send through an email, the address is below. Right now, though, let's get into today's Bible verse.
So be content with who you are. Don't put on airs. God's strong hand is on you and he'll promote you at the right time. This is found in 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 6 from the Message Bible.
I've got the amazing Gig here in studio. Gig, your glasses, I think they change every time. How many pairs do you have? Or is it just the same pair and I'm just wowed every time?
Well, I do have one spectacular pair, which is my bifocals. That's my everyday doing, driving, whatever. But I've got my reading glasses on. And what I do is I get on eBay and I buy like a pack of 5.
Uh-huh.
Same design, all in different colours. So people go, you've got so many glasses. I've only got about 6, but yeah. And they're only cheap, but they work.
And they're very statement. You're wearing cherry red today.
I've always wanted to be that older lady who has fabulous glasses and a fabulous loud laugh. So I think yeah.
Oh, you're there.
I'm
you're
hitting
there,
that nail on the head. Absolutely.
I think for me, like the older lady that I would love to be is I want to be someone who can wear like stilettos and a blazer.
Nice.
Like, yes, I can. I'm doing the blazer bit now. I have flat feet. So stilettos have always been a little tricky for me.
Oh, yes.
But I'll get there. I will get there.
Things we do.
So today we're taking a look at 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 6. So be content with who you are. Don't put on airs. Hashtag stiletto. God's strong hand is on you. He'll promote you at the right time. I think for me, Gig, this verse, for me, especially in the workplace, I've often found that I've had to remind myself of this verse because ultimately it's God who opens doors. God is the one who will promote. God is the one who sees what I do. Yeah. And so for me, I often use this verse or lean into it when I feel like I'm not seen. I'm reminded of the fact that, no, God sees me and God is the ultimate promoter, the ultimate employee, the ultimate manager, and I just need to please him. That's my first impression of this one. Yeah. What about you, Gig?
Well, especially growing up as a young teen and a lady in my 20s, I tried, as like you, very hard to be seen. I just needed to be seen. I grew up in the theatre. So I learnt how to be seen, but in the wrong way. I was loud and, you name it, I was there. You could see, you knew when I was, Gig's here, I can hear her, she's coming in the room. Yeah, it's like, look at me, look at me, look at me. I really had to strive to be somebody, Joy, but all along I was enough. And that took a long time to realise, a very long time. I'm designed to be exactly who I am. I don't need any fanfare. I don't need any introduction. I am gracefully and beautifully made. And I know that I just have to be still and know that God is God. And if I do that and stop the fanfare, stop the noise, then things just go into alignment and things run smoothly.
Well, it sounds like there's definitely been a journey from your early 20s theatre days to now, and I'd love to unpack that a little further. But one of the questions I love asking on this podcast is, what does this verse tell you about who God is or what he values?
Oh gosh, he so values us. He so values. You don't have to try with God, unlike the human experience where we have to try. We think we have to try, but we don't. This tells me to trust and to chill. He knows everything. He takes care of my desires. He knows the path that my heart needs to go. And it comes down, I believe, to trust. Absolutely. He's just saying, just sit, look at me, know I'm God, breathe and just trust me.
Yeah, and it's so good to know that there is one person in your life you don't have to impress.
Oh, everyone we impress, every situation we walk in, who's looking, what do they think of me, especially with social media now, Joy. It's a huge thing. Shall I answer this? Am I going to be judged on this? Be still. Know that I'm God.
And I think that's one of the things I kind of thought to myself. I'm like, oh yeah, the older I get, and for some people it is, but I do think it's a conscious decision. But I always thought I'll grow out of it. The older I get, the less competition there is. But I have heard some grandmas talking to each other about their grandkiddies at brunch tables, and I'm like, oh, the competition is fierce.
Fierce. Absolutely. I don't think you ever grow out of it. I think our insecurities and life always creep in, and that's why we have to be still.
Yeah, and
Definitely.
I think we have to deal with them, otherwise they do grow. They stay with you as you get older, and you can't really wish for it away.
Yes.
Being content, yeah, that's a tough one. How is this verse applied in your everyday life with specific reference to that transition you were talking about? Now you walk into a room and you don't need to say, hey, gig is here.
Yeah.
But at a time in your life you did. What changed that?
I think getting to a point in my life where I would say, God, what do you think of me? And meditating on what God thinks of me, and understanding that I need to not worry about anything but what God thinks. Because everything else will align. I have to stop thinking, what will that person think about what I'm wearing, how I reacted? Oh, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. We're so hard on ourselves. Sit back. What does God think of me? Search the scriptures. Meditate on what he actually thinks of you, what he's done for you, and what he still does for you all the time. And that's something that I think helped me understanding, because I would in reality go, well, how was I raised? How do people react to me? And I wasn't brought up in the church. I wasn't brought up with Christ. So coming into that and finally being seen at 17, 18, saying, God, if you're real, step into my life. And he did. The Holy Spirit entered me and I was on the floor.
I know that as a mum, as a mum of two beautiful, gorgeous girls, growing up, as you mentioned, in a more social media oriented world, you've got this amazing journey that you've been on. How do you pass that on to your girls to ensure that they too can walk into a room feeling confident, not in their clothes or their appearance, but in who they are, who God's called them to be? How do you instill that in a child? How do you do that?
Oh, that is such a good question, and it's such an important question that people really need to take on board. For me, I'm being the mum I needed when I grew up. And it's been something that's come up in the last few weeks because my sister's now moved in with us and she doesn't have kids. So she's reacting like our parents used to, because I'm not treating my children the way our parents treated us. Where I'm just standing back going, I need to be the mum that I needed when I was little. When they're in this situation, is there fruit in what I'm saying? Am I building them up? It's so important, the words we put into these kids' ears. And so that's my main thing. Am I being the mum I needed when I was little?
Yeah. And tomorrow, actually, on the episode, we're going to be talking more about your story, Gig, with your upbringing and your childhood and a few of the ups and downs of that. So if you resonate with that part of Gig's story, make sure you do listen to tomorrow's episode. We'll dive deeper into that. Gig, as we wrap up today's episode, what's your final thought or encouragement around today's verse?
Remember God's strong hand. That's all you got to remember. God's strong hand. It's on you. It's always on you. It's never left you. He's always got you.
First Peter chapter 5 verse 6. So be content with who you are and don't put on airs. God's strong hand is on you. He'll promote you at the right time. A little bit earlier in this episode, Gig was talking about this pivotal moment in her life where she realized she needed to break away from the old and step into the new. And it's really hard to will yourself into a new person. And I think I do talk about this in one of the earliest episodes of the Everyday Joy podcast. Some of the most powerful ways to shift your perspective, one of the most powerful ways to create change, is to ask the right questions. And one of the questions Gig asked was the question, God, what do you think of me? And that's what I want to focus on with today's application. In order for us to be content with who we are, I think we need to inject some of God's truth into us. We need to stop and ask ourselves, okay, enough about what I think about myself and what others think of me. God, what do you think of me? And truly meditating on that, truly finding scriptures that align with what God says about you. Before I wrap up today's episode, I'd like to encourage you to really take note of tomorrow's one, especially if you, like Gig, grew up in an environment where love wasn't really expressed, and that's affected you into your adulthood in different ways. Gig talks about how her upbringing affected the way she saw the world and changed the way she did life. And then she also talks about how God stepped in. It's a really powerful story. And if you didn't grow up in a Christian household, or if you grew up in a household where people weren't kind to each other, I think tomorrow is going to be an incredibly freeing episode. We will get into that tomorrow though. Right now, I'll say goodbye and catch up with you then.